Hi, I'm John McGuire, and I have CZ with me. We're with the global search team, and I'm going to take you through some of the updates that we have coming for GitLab 14.6. So the first thing, we are really focused on two different objectives as we look at 14.6 in global search. We want to make some incremental improvements to the UX and front end, as well as really focus in on performance improvements, specifically looking at how we can increase the performance and reliability of GitLab.com as a SaaS. So starting with the UX and the front end components, we have two changes. The first is that we want to make the options that are on the left-hand side when you do a search that allow you to filter on status and confidentiality. Today, these are radio buttons. We want to switch these into multi-select and make them checkboxes. And so that would be a change that's for issues and merge requests today. But we would carry this forward as we continue to expand out scopes in the future that have these filtering options. The next thing is something that we kind of saw can be a little bit confusing for customers sometimes. When you are searching and you get a option to choose that search term in the autocomplete as it's focused in on a group or across all GitLab. And the same thing happens when you're looking at project. You can then also get an offer to search that term specific to the group. Those contexts are really helpful, but they can be a little bit confusing because the text runs together. So we are looking at breaking it out to a design that looks like this, where you can have the group and the list of the project out to the right-hand side, and then it would also be reflected in the search bar as well if you're searching in that context already. So this actually condenses the view a little bit, but it also creates a better separation across the alignment where these group and projects are listed so that it's not confusing or blends in with the search term that's chosen. So the expectation is it will encourage more users to actually drive into their scope or group from the initial search, which should lead to a better experience. And so CZ is going to take us through some of the performance related objectives that we're looking at in 14.6.
Thank you, John. One of performance improvements we are going to do in 14.6 is to move uh, commits to its own Elasticsearch index. Originally, all our data was in one single index. And in the past, we have experiments and moving out certain data to its own index, for example, issues, MRs, comments. We have seen improved performance after we split the index by the data type. Now, we plan to continue with this effort and we'll be moving commits to its own index. We hope it will help speed up the search for the commits and also help to speed up the search in other data in the main index.
Yeah, so I think I want to drive into this just a little bit because I think it's
Mhm.
really interesting that if I'm changing how we index
Mhm.
a type of document, but it's actually going to speed up the performance when I go to recall those documents, right? So it's
Yes.
even though it's an index change, we're not really
Mhm.
trying to speed up how fast we're indexing it. That seems to be okay.
Right.
It's actually about how you call that information back from the index,
Right. Right.
and so it gets really interesting on why that occurs.
Uh, so we we in our search, users can search per document type, for example, issues, commits. Um, by moving each of the document type into its own index, it reduces the index size greatly. So that helped to speed up the search a lot.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? This ends up being a part of just how Elasticsearch works, right? So
Mm.
we have an index, then you have an index broken out into shards. And when
Mhm.
a search happens, it actually goes and it hits each of these shards
Right.
to then pull back that result set.
Right.
Well, if you have a really large index that throws everything into it, it's got to search across lots and lots of more shards. And so if we break this down into smaller indices with less shards, and that scope is represented to only need to search across those shards, the difference is in the performance is seen because you're not searching across hundreds of shards, you're searching across tens of shards to try to build that result set back. And ultimately, it makes for smaller shard sizes. So the index that actually contains code starts to see a performance increase as well because it's actually hit less often and the shard sizes end up being smaller, right?
Yes, that's correct.
That's really great. I mean, it's kind of not intuitive to think that we're going to improve indexing, but it's actually going to improve the performance of it. But that's how
Yes.
Elastic works.
Yeah, I think it's also help improve the reliability. So if you have everything into one index, if you run into issue with index, basically everything will be affected. Now, by splitting the index by the document type, if you have issue maybe with one index, the other index can still be functioning.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about this, but we also kind of saw this as we did this with issues.
Mhm.
Another unintended benefit that we definitely appreciated was as we started adding more features and needed to change how something was indexed, calling us to re-index it. We didn't have to reprocess everything in the index. We just had to reprocess issues, which was extremely small compared to what the code index was. And instead of spending several hours or maybe even a day trying to do a reindex, we were able to reindex issues in I think it was like 15 minutes with the new field that we needed, which is, it wasn't one of our intended advantages, but it does support that there's a lot of other advantages that really come to this concept of breaking out that index, and so there's a lot of value that we'll continue to see as we move down the path of breaking out the index into these individual scopes.
Yes.
Um, I think I want to jump to something since we're kind of on that track
Mhm.
around a spike that we're taking on too, right?
Yes. So this one is to explore other routing and sharding strategy. Right now, our shard is built around the projects. So basically, all the data is shared by the project ID. It provides a very fast search experience for the project level search. However, we also provide the functionality which allows users to search within a group. Now, under a group, you may have many projects. Those projects can be scattered onto multiple shards. Then when a user search within a group, the data could come from multiple shards. So the the performance can be affected by aggregating all the search results from multiple shards. Now we are exploring another strategy to shard our data by group. We hope this will yield a good result on a group level search.
Yeah, so that's, it goes right along with how we were discussing breaking out that index, right? So
Yes.
this is more into what determines how you're trying to keep information that's similar in the same shard. And there's lots of ways
Mhm.
Elastic tries to balance this out
Yes.
in the routing key to try to do this.
Mhm.
We force the namespace. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, as the routing key.
Yes.
Because it seems logical that a
Mhm.
user, especially in self-managed as well as SaaS, that you're going to be working more times trying to
Mhm.
search across things in the same group. And then, what we're looking at now is if there's a better way to speed this up. So we don't know, right? That's why it's a spike. We want to see if there's a better
Yeah.
way. We think there is a better way.
Yeah.
And I really look forward to seeing what the results look like for this. And anytime you can improve, your document routing strategy, that's a global impact. It has, far-reaching impacts and advantages across every aspect that you're using to
Yeah.
call Elasticsearch for. So
Yes.
it's actually really exciting if we can come up with a result either way.
Hmm.
But definitely exciting. We can come up with a result that is superior to what we're doing today.
Yes.
And moving into the idea of what we do for, in the experimenting round, right, of how we're trying to find better ways to improve. We have Rally, right?
Yes. Uh, since we just talked about the spec is about to explore other sharding strategy. Now it also comes to a question how we can determine whether the new sharding strategy will be better than existing one. Now we need a tool to do the benchmarking for us. Uh, we think Riley is an industrial standard tooling for benchmarking the Elasticsearch performance. We'll try to build a Riley testing and benchmarking framework with Elasticsearch at GitLab.
Yeah, and I think we touched in and did our first internal demonstration on using Rally
Mhm.
in the last milestone, and as we were learning more about the values it could create, it we were impressed. I think, right? Like, I mean, I was impressed at least. I really saw it as a tool that really does simplify how we can go about trying to test comparable versions related to performance testing. And I think eventually we'll probably even get into ways to improve the quality of the results that come back as well. And it seems like it has enough pieces built in that it saves us a lot of time by using it rather than trying to explore our own methods of creating those comparable testing scenarios. So at least at this point, we definitely want to keep exploring how we can keep learning down that path and be able to increase the variables that we'll be able to test in a faster method. So I'm pretty excited about where this could take us over the next few milestones as we really get it into practice and learn faster the things that it can really help us
Mhm.
test.
Yes.
And if we're making all these performance changes, right, like it's also important that we're focused on continuing the quality elements and how we're actually looking at providing a QA standard to ensure a high level of quality. And that's where the next couple issues come from.
Yes. Uh, One effort we are going to make, or we are going to continue making, is to speed up our search end-to-end tests. This is one. And we have another one, which is to upgrade the version of Elasticsearch to relative latest version in our testing environment.
Yeah, and I think this one's actually pretty interesting, right? Because as we
Mhm.
did this, we kind of discovered that the Docker Hub version of Elasticsearch does not necessarily always keep up with the most recent versions. So
Yes.
Elasticsearch released 7.15.1 at the time of this
Mhm.
video. They actually
Mhm.
a few days ago had released 7.15.2,
Yes.
but at least we want to keep up with the latest version available through Docker Hub, which as of yesterday at least is 7.14.2,
Mhm.
and so
Yes.
that's why 7.14.2 is the focus here, instead of the 7.15.2 that came out 7 days ago, I think.
Yes. Yeah. We will also be looking at maybe alternatives to Docker Hub.
Yes, yeah, and that's something that we hope to include in a future milestone with some updates. But at this point, we're still talking about what we want to do as an
Mhm.
alternative, and so for at least this milestone, we'll be focused on upgrading the version to be the latest available from Docker Hub.
Yes.
And that takes us through some of the a lot of the engineering effort that we're doing coming up now in GitLab 14.6, and we really look forward to seeing the UX changes that we're looking at as well as we incrementally evolve and make that experience easier and better to use. And we look forward to giving even more feature updates and details on our engineering efforts as we go into 14.7. Thank you.
Thank you.